Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and by popular demand, we have brought back Master Manifestor Batya Solomon to talk to us today about manifesting millions. And the truth is, I realize that while we've touched on prosperity and abundance over the years on Weekly Energy Boost, we've never really talked about making money. We've talked about belief systems that block us from having money. We've talked around it. I don't know if we've ever talked about it. And this week, there is a particular day, which we can talk about on the calendar, in which we can connect to abundance and prosperity in a really unlimited way. So we thought, what better timing than to bring Batya on to help us better understand, and I have a long list of questions, again, that came from our listeners, about what Kabbalah says about money, why people have it or don't have it, why if it's good to want it or not to want it, what it means if we're drawn to different professions or industries. Some are more lucrative than others. What does it say about us if we don't do something, if our gifts are not in an area that generates a lot of prosperity? So many questions. Every week on the Weekly Energy Boost, we aim to provide our listeners with the most powerful and practical tools and wisdom to navigate the coming week. And of course, this week being one of those weeks that helps us connect to that energy of abundance more directly. Obviously, everything we're going to talk about today is timeless and practical and going to be relevant for any day, any week, any month, any year. So Batya is known among the Kabbalah Centre teachers as the prosperity principal. She teaches a weekly course called Prosperity Principles, but is known, I refer my students out to her whenever they need to work through prosperity blockage or issue or obstacle. So I want to defer to you, Batya, and ask you, what drew you to this? How did you get that crown? and what nuggets, what gifts can you share with us today?
Well, thank you, Elisheva. Thank you for having me on your show.
It's not my show. It's the Light's show.
Oh, thank you for the...
Thank the Light.
Thank you, Light. Where do I begin? Let's see. I did not start out to be the Kabbalah Centre Prosperity Principles teacher. Just, it organically turned out that way. And whenever anything organically turns out anyway in your life, it means it's part of your destiny. It means it's what you're meant to be doing. Before I came to the Kabbalah Centre, I was a spiritual seeker. I have an adventurous spirit. You might not see that in me if you don't know me, but for those who know me well, kind of have a rebellious spirit. I don't take things at face value. I like to find out for myself. And when I was younger, it started when I was a teenager. My father died when I was a teenager, and it set me on a course of knowing, starting to ask the bigger pictures of life. Why do we exist? What happens in our life? And it also sent me on a journey of to understand the meaning of life. And if you missed my last time I was here on your podcast and I talked about my near-death experience, which I'm not going to get into now, you can hear all about some of the conclusions there. And part of the journey was finding happiness. This is really where it started. I wanted to know what it takes to be happy. And I just did not have fulfillment. And so I started on my journey of spirituality. And in those days, I was under the misunderstanding, as so many people are, that to be spiritual means that you don't have any sort of connection or attachment to money. Money is the root of all evil. And to denounce physicality and live in this, what can I say? What's the word? I don't know.
Commune.
Cloistered, self from the physical world, and blah, blah, blah. It turns out I had 2 roommates and I couldn't pay my rent, bottom line. So I come from a family that worships money. And they always said, if you make enough money, one of the lies that they live by and, instilled in me that if you make enough money, money will make you happy. And I always rejected that notion. But I had come to the point where I had tried so many other paths, so many other things, that I ran out of options. The only one left was money. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to throw in the towel. They say that money's going to make me happy. All right, I'm going to give it my all. So I set out on a journey to learn everything I could about how to manifest money. And long story short, I went from not being able to pay my rent to hitting my financial goal, that I was sure that if I had hit that financial goal, that I could live independently, which I did. Have my own car or my own place. I had financial freedom. So here, I thought, I'm here and I'm empty, and if I make enough money, then I'll get there, and there I'll be happy. But eventually there becomes here, and I was just as empty. Yes, I had money now, I could pay for things, but it really didn't achieve the objective that I wanted to achieve. So I was on this trajectory of making money, and I could have made more and more and more money, but I realized at that point that I had already hit a watershed moment where I realized, even, let's say, I could have easily doubled my income if I had applied myself to it, and then doubled my income again, and then double my income again. But what was the point? Because I'd experienced this epiphany, I'd say, this realization, oh my God, I'm as empty, or if not emptier, and the money didn't make me happy. A lot of people still don't get it, that money doesn't make you happy. Yes, it's a wonderful tool to use if you're using it for positive reasons, but in and of itself, it doesn't make you happy. And then after that depression, I cried out to God and said, I don't know what to do to be happy. And right after that, soon after that, I was walking down Fifth Avenue, because I was working in Manhattan at the time, living in New York, working in Manhattan. And across Fifth Avenue, there was a table on the street, and a big sign on the table that said Kabbalah. And I said, wow, I don't know, something in me lit up. I crossed Fifth Avenue and 30-something Street. It was right near the Empire State Building. And that's changed my destiny right there. So that started so I have a passion for manifesting. It's not as much, I like money. Who doesn't like money? Well, some people actually don't like money. I shouldn't say that that way. But what really I enjoy is that in my nature, one of the gifts I have that I brought with me into this life is the ability to manifest. I have my coaching, private coaching sessions. It's called Manifest More, because we are all naturally manifesting machines. Every single human being is born with the ability to manifest. And you are manifesting, and we are all manifesting every moment. You cannot shut it off. A lot of people just don't understand that you cannot shut it off. But if people say, I can't pay my rent and I can't afford this or that, it's only because those people who are doing that do not understand that they're driving a vehicle that keeps crashing into the wall because they're not taking control of their manifesting abilities. It's out of control. So what you can learn to do is you learn to harness it. You learn to focus it. Because you're a manifestor, it's not like you have to learn how to be a manifestor. It's just to learn how to harness your innate manifesting ability, which for me is forever fascinating. I just love it. I have a passion for it. So I started a 6-week class many years ago called Prosperity Principles. And I never forget, one of the teachers in the center said, what could you talk about for 6 weeks? Well, it turned out that particular class, the people loved it, the students loved it. They kept asking for more and more and more. So I was teaching those classes until COVID. Actually, I was teaching them in person. And then COVID hit. It turned out to be a blessing, in my world for many reasons, personally. And then I went online, and now I've taught over 100 or more classes on prosperity with no end in sight. So it's an ongoing weekly series, and there's always something to talk about. There's always another aspect of it, but it's not the conversation, the lowest level of the conversation truly is about money. That's what got me started,
But why do you think that is? Why do you think that so much of the world revolves around money? What is it about money that drives
money.
people?
It's not the money. It's the meaning we ascribe to it. So when you think about money, and I encourage the listeners here to ask yourself in this moment, when you think about money, what do you think about? What do you associate with it? Some people will say freedom. Some people will say security. Some people will say, well, if I have enough money, people will respect me. If I have enough money, people will love me. If I have whatever, people will accept me. If I have enough money, then I'll be able to do X, Y, or Z. But that's a very limited belief, because the truth is you could do X, Y, or Z without that. But if you create that construct, then you've imprisoned yourself in a very narrow way of going about manifesting things with unnecessary suffering and delay. So it's a matter of learning the spiritual laws around manifesting more. And if this week, what better time to speak about it than this week? We have a connection to Joseph the Righteous. If you know the story, the Old Testament, the Bible, the Torah, whatever you want to call it, Scripture, is truly a prosperity manual. A lot of people don't seem to understand that. It's all a code. You have the Joseph. He lives in a big family. He's number 11, lost in the crowd of 12 kids. That time, 12 kids. He was his father's favorite. That's never a good sign. Isn't that funny that the Bible would give such bad parenting advice on when you first read it? Oh my God, you should never play favorites. Everybody knew he was his dad's favorite. His brothers hated him, and worse than that, he has a dream that he sees that his brothers are bowing down to him, and his parents are bowing down to him, and all of this, and then they hate him even more. Eventually, they find a way that he kind of walks into their company without the protection of their father, and they end up they want to kill him, and they end up throwing him in a pit. Then they end up selling him into slavery. So the Bible talks about first incident of human trafficking right there. I mean, what could be worse than that? And what could be worse? Now he's sold into slavery in Egypt. But all of this is a code. And in spite of the worst things that could possibly happen to a human being, and these are the worst things. In fact, he was sold as a sex slave, by the way. It's not something you won't probably hear in church or the synagogue, but that's actually what it's talking about there. And from like the lowest depths of what a human can experience, he rose to the greatest heights and ended up becoming in charge of all the world's money. Not only was he a rich man, but he controlled all the money of the world. Now, what is that story about? Certainly it's not a history lesson. It's a code. The soul that is so loved by the Creator, comes into this world, and we're shackled by the limitations of this world. And we have a choice every time that we encounter something that seems to enslave us, to threaten us, etc. I mean, he's falsely accused of raping this woman who actually tried to seduce him, and he rejected her, and she got revenge. I mean, so many terrible things happened to this person. And in spite of it all, he rose to the top. And what does that tell us about us? That this story is not about someone else. This story is about you. It's about me. That we have this indomitable spirit that if we would access it in the proper way, that we too will rule over our world. We too can be the channel of great abundance in our world. But what can we learn from him? Well, the number one thing there's so many things we can learn, but our time is limited, so we'll stick to a couple. One was everything that happened to him, you never read about, and I encourage you to actually read the literal story just to get an idea what I'm talking about. You never hear a complaint out of his mouth. He never feels like a victim. He never cries out to the Creator, help me, I'm stuck, my brothers are horrible. No. What he does is that in every instance, he finds a way to add value to his situation. Add value, because money is a form of energy. An idea is a form of energy. Love is a form of energy. we live in an energetic universe, and we are beings of energy, and we are conductors of energy. And what shows up in the physical way is the effect of how we've been conducting this energy. And Joseph, as our role model, is showing us the best way to conduct energy is to always be proactive, always be the cause. No matter what, they threw him in jail. What happened? He ended up running the jail. They threw him into slavery to originally be the sex slave of a man named Potiphar. We don't have time to go into that story. But he ended up, instead of that, because he was so proactive and he was so willing to inject a consciousness of giving value, of always being this fountain of energy for the greater good. And right away his master saw that, wow, this guy's way more valuable to me than being a reactive victim of me. He ended up running the whole household. And then they throw him in jail, and he ends up running the jail. Everywhere he goes, he rises to the top. What does that tell us? This is not a story about Joseph. Everywhere you go, you could also rise to the top. You don't have the shackles of life. You're not as stuck as you like, or your opponent force, or your ego, or your dark side, or whatever you think is trying to tell you, oh, no, not my situation. I can never make those changes. I can never speak up. Oh, I can never ask for what I want. It's not true. You made that up. And some, you believe in that limitation. But just as easy that you believed, or difficult that you believed in the limitations, guess what? Change your mind, you change your destiny. You can believe in your salvation. You can believe in your abundance. But it begins there. Joseph is the code word for Ze'er Anpin, as we teach in Kabbalah and the deeper Kabbalah studies, the gateway. He represents the gateway to the infinite universe. Infinite. And we are infinite beings that have incarnated into these temporary earth suits, these little virtual reality suits, in order to dominate, like Joseph, dominate this world. And the way we do that is with our consciousness. What you think about, what you speak about, what your intention really is. Is it for the sake of sharing? Is it for the sake of adding value to other people's lives? Or is it for the sake of what's going to happen to me? What am I going to get out of the situation? What are they doing to me? How do I compare myself to someone else? So Joseph, another lesson we can learn from Joseph is he knew he would rule, but he completely let go of how that was going to happen. So can you imagine if you decide, hey, I'm going to rule over my empire. I'm going to start a business. And I'm going to invent something. And I'm going to tell the world about it. And then what happens? Events seem to show up that seem to take you in the opposite direction. It doesn't take you to where you think your goal is. But if you resist that, then you resist manifesting your goal. Because how things happen is out of our purview. It's not up to us. It's none of our business. Our job is to hold the vision. Hold the vision, have a great reason how it helps other people. If you're the kind of person that you want to create a company so you can just make money, first of all, it won't be successful. And even if it is, it'll be temporary. And even if it is, it will be painful because that's violating the laws of the universe. It begins with, from the heart, a cause that somehow, some way adds value to other people's lives. This is a very foundational concept into amassing more abundance in your life. Not everybody wants to be a billionaire. Not everybody can handle being a billionaire. And you don't have to be a billionaire or even a millionaire in order to enjoy your life. What are your priorities? How are you being? What is your purpose? How are you being or adding value to other people's lives? First of all, it begins with having certainty within your soul, to understand that you are the beloved child of the creator force of the infinite, all that is, and it is your birthright to be rich. It is your birthright to have everything. It is your birthright to rule this dimension. Most of us just didn't know it. You don't understand that you are loved and you are supported beyond your wildest imaginations. But I have a question for you. Imagine if you dropped your story before listening to this podcast and you decided, what would happen if I actually lived from that perspective, that I am infinitely loved and I'm already infinitely abundant? What would happen if? That can open up a whole gateway for you to see a change in the sequence of events of your life, to take you to that vision. So have a vision, live into that vision, love the vision, and then let go of how it's going to manifest. It doesn't mean you sit home and eat bonbons and watch TV. It does mean, though, you wait to be divinely guided. And believe me, doors will open for you. It's important, just as important as your intensity of your desire, your vision for the greater good, is to also be very mindful of what is being asked of you, mindful of what is being introduced into your world, mindful of who's stepping into your spectrum of your world, your five senses. And that is the clue that takes you down the yellow brick road to meet the wizard, if I can use that metaphor.
Hopefully we won't get in trouble. Well, I think...
The real wizard, not the Wizard
obviously.
of Oz.
I use that metaphor sometimes too. I think that a lot of our listeners are hearing what you're saying and maybe hitting themselves over the head for falling to the illusions, the upbringings or the projections that we have about money. But at the end of the day, I can hear through the speakers, there's a lot of people that are saying, easy for you to say. You don't know.
I just told you I couldn't pay my rent.
Okay, but you're standing on the other side of having, of let's say, that ocean of overcoming, letting go of attachments, recognizing that you have value to add. What are some tools that we can give our listeners for crossing that ocean?
So I did give some tools. I'll give them again. First of all, change your mind. So important. The way you get from where you are now, and I know this is going to sound like cliche and oversimplified, but what can I say? The truth is usually deep, profound, and simple all at the same time. Is that if you want to change your reality, is basically what you're saying. What do you want? Write this down. What do I want? Do you even know? I tell you, 99% of the people who come to see me for personal coaching, the first hurdle we have to overcome is to identify what that person wants. Now, I'll tell you what 99% of the people tell me when I ask them, what do you want? They tell me, well, I don't know, but let me tell you what I don't want. So here's a spiritual law. What you focus on increases. I'm going to say this again. What you focus on increases. And unfortunately, as I said before, we are all manifesting machines. We can't turn it off. So ignorance of the law is no excuse. If you keep focusing on what you don't want, if you keep complaining about the terrible relationship you're in, or the terrible salary you're getting, or whatever unsatisfying condition, and you think about it, and you don't think about it once, you think about it over and over and over again, and then you complain about it and you talk about it, all you're doing is you're manifesting more of the same thing. So the challenge is, first of all, focus on what you want. What do you want? Do you want to improve your marriage? Do you want to have that special relationship and get married? Do you want to get out of the marriage you're in now? Do you want to build a business? Do you want to sell your business? What is it you want? Do you want love? That's the number one thing everyone wants. Everyone wants to feel loved. But you know what? Love begins from within. To love yourself, to invest in yourself. What does that mean? It's to acknowledge the infinite light force within you. So that's a great place to start. To be in alignment with the infinite light force within you. Every single one of us came to this world with a purpose. If you don't know what your purpose is, start to pay attention, ask for help, find your purpose. That's the most fulfilling thing, more than money. To find and live your purpose is one of the most fulfilling things you can do in your life. Focus on what you want and have gratitude. Gratitude is the elevator that gets you from the basement of poverty to the penthouse of riches. That's a great analogy. I don't know. I was channeling folks right there. Anyway, I'm going to say it again. Gratitude for what you already have and for what you will have takes you out of the basement of poverty up to the penthouse of riches. In the Kabbalistic practice, we have a very interesting practice. In Kabbalistic practice is all filled with prosperity actions and formulas. One of them, let me put it to you this way. When you get a gift, what do you say?
Thank you.
Right. But Kabbalistically, we know that before we get something, we actually say thank you first. Think about it. Before you eat, before we drink, before we do a lot of actions, we acknowledge the Creator and we say thank you before we receive it. And there's a big prosperity secret right there. I'm saying I deliver or I communicate to Creator Force or whoever it is you acknowledge as the greater force or energy or intelligence that's running this world. And you say thank you for that beautiful mansion that I'm seeing myself living in. And I see myself already enjoying the experience of living in that mansion or whatever it is, the new car or whatever you put, whatever you want, you fill in the blank there. And you ask for it, it's already given. It's already given in the potential state. Now, how do you bring it from the potential state into the physical state? Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. Gratitude takes you out of the basement up to the penthouse, and then you let go. So here's some, just in a quick cheat sheet. Well, if you want more, please watch my classes on Kabbalah.com because you go on and on and on and all these different tools and all of these different understandings about prosperity. But just real simple. Here's the cheat codes right here. 1, focus on what you want. 2, have total certainty that what you're asking for is already given to you. 3, let go of how it shows up. Just follow the promptings that the universe gives you in terms of what people are asking you for, who shows up in your life. Just follow the incidences of what shows up. Do that work with love and always with adding value, always with happiness and certainty and gratitude. Gratitude every day, every night, every word out of your mouth. If it was with gratitude, you would be speeding up the process. Begin the statements with, I'm so happy and grateful. I'm so happy and grateful. I'm so happy and grateful that I get to be here with you in this moment. I'm so happy and grateful I woke up this morning. I'm so happy and grateful that we drove here and didn't get into a car accident. I'm so happy and grateful that we're going to go home and it'll be non-eventful as well. I'm so happy and grateful and have certainty in it. This is ideally what the prescription is. Here's what usually happens. Person asks for something and then has no certainty that what they asked for will be received. And then they do the worst thing possible. They worry over it. And they stress over it. Did I get it yet? Did it show up yet? Oh, this stuff doesn't work. Oh, I said I wanted to be, whatever. I want to double my income, right? So imagine someone says, I want to double my income. And they think about, wow, great it feels to double their income. And, oh, I'm buying this and I'm putting away that for my retirement and I'm giving charity and I'm feeling so good. I'm taking my best friend out for whatever. Got this double in income and I'm feeling free, and the next day they get fired. What would the average person do? A non-prosperity minded person do? They would give up. They would have doubt. What would a prosperity minded person think and say? Yay! The universe is giving me a promotion. Yay! If I would have stayed in that job, I'd never double my salary. I said I want to double my salary. I have to trust the process. By getting fired or laid off is now opening all these possibilities that weren't there before, that job was actually blocking my doubled income. If you can maintain that certainty and that gratitude, I guarantee you, not me, the universe, these are the spiritual laws. I didn't make them up, folks. I'm just the messenger. This is what gets you what you want.
What about people who don't want that much?
then they're happy. Well, they probably wouldn't be listening.
Well,
what do you mean they don't want that? What does that even mean?
I think
We're
hear
born
from
desires. We're born. Everyone is born a ball of desire.
but
It's on nature.
you haven't met anybody who says, I just want this and leave me alone.
And that's what happens. They
Well,
just have that. And they're
many
left
times
alone.
they don't even have that. So I just want to hear you speak a little bit about desire. That you were talking about what do you want.
Oh, yes.
We learn in Kabbalah that desire or intention is the root of everything.
Right.
So if we are listening to you and we're recognizing, hey, I realize my desire is very limited, or my perception, my belief around what I can have is very limited.
Well, sometimes people think that way because they don't think they deserve anymore, right? So what they're doing is they're violating the spiritual law. You're meant to have everything. By pushing it away, it's like spitting in God's face and say, leave me alone. Let me just roll around my victim consciousness. But why would you want to do that? I actually know someone from many years ago. He was starting a business. And I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of his mouth. He said, he was starting a social media something. And he was going to make money, and he said, I just want enough money to be able to pay my bills and
That's
just
what
get
I'm
by.
talking about. People say that.
Yes, because they've been miseducated. They've been severely damaged in their education, that they think that that's a spiritual way to live. I'm here to tell you that it's a sin to live that way. It's a sin, I tell you. Don't live that way. It's not necessary. It violates the laws of the universe. You're meant to have everything. By the way, if you want to stay young, have a big desire. A big desire keeps you young. People think as they get old, their desire shrinks. No, their desire shrinks, and that's why they get old.
That's very powerful.
Yes, it is. That's why I left that little silent space there to really let that one sink in.
It's
if you want to get younger, increase your desire.
Well, that's very opposite to what, at least in American society, we think we've got to start to do less, slow down.
Oh, God forbid.
This is my point. I think it's an important shift that we're encouraging our listeners to make, is that it's not that you need to be busier, but you shouldn't be doing less.
Exactly. Want more. Don't fall into the brainwashing of this, the worshiping the youth, as if anybody who's past their 20s, 30s, even 40s, that youth is certainly wasted on the young, right? And in this society, everyone worships youth. It makes absolutely no sense. If we lived in a more balanced, healthy society, everybody would be respecting their elders, because the elders now have experience. But because people buy into that unfortunate way of that unfortunate perception, there's nothing wrong with the youth. They're young. They should be making mistakes and doing what I'm learning and growing. But they're certainly the elders of society have way more to offer, and have been tossed to the side. But don't fall for that. Have a big desire. The bigger your desire, the better your life is going to be, no matter what age you are. Have a big desire, and then let go of the logic. This is the killer of manifestation, is logic. I can't imagine how that could possibly be. Done. That's it. Cut off.
Can't possibly be if you can't imagine it.
Exactly. Do you know how you speak to God? Do you know how you feel the Creator in your life? Through your imagination. Through your imagination. It is your best prosperity tool, by the way. And I, if you don't believe me, I'd like you to take a moment now and assess everything in your world. Everything you're touching, wearing, using, driving in, whatever, playing with. Everything you're sitting on, walking on, living in once began in someone's imagination. Think about that. Nothing exists in this world without someone's imagining it first. So you could be, activating so much more of your potential simply by giving yourself permission to imagine, and don't let that inner critical voice stop you from imagining and then trusting with childlike wonder and trust to allow it to show up in the way it is meant to show up, not in the way you want to control it. You must, like Joseph the Righteous, you must let go of control and let life lead you to manifesting your dreams. And if you do, you will.
Wow. If anything you've heard this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whatever it is for you, has resonated with you and you want some of that more personalized approach, Batya does one-on-one Manifest More sessions. You can find out about that on our website, weeklyenergyboost.com. Batya's classes, the prosperity principles that she was talking about, are also available on Kabbalah.com or included in the One House membership. Batya, anything else you want to share with us before we...
Oh, there's so much. There's so much. I'm restricting myself. Otherwise, we'd be here for 4 more hours at least. So
Well, we could.
I'll save you the...
Let's see if that's something
time.
that you guys are interested in. Let us know. Please continue to rate, review, like, and of course share. I think not every episode is geared towards a first-time listener, but this is a perfect one because the nuggets are so clear and concise and so relatable. This is a week where we can all open ourselves to expand, to receive more, to want more. For those of you that are listening in the beginning of the week, that day, Joseph the Righteous, is day of elevation, which is when all of that energy that Batya spoke about is available. It's Monday night to Tuesday night.
Well, can I just say one thing? One of the beautiful things about studying Kabbalah is that you learn about these days of power. So everything I said, it applies to the whole every day of the year. However, there are these incredible gifts, these energy portals, like we're just discussing now about Joseph the Righteous, where it gives you, it enhances your power. It enhances your energy. It's like a wave that comes. It makes it even easier for you to manifest what you want. So it's if you snooze, you lose. If you don't know about these days of power, if you don't know about these opportunities, it's just we get there, but it's more effort. So if you'd like to get there in a more efficient way, that's why it's so important to know about these days of power, like the one like Joseph the Righteous. But everything I said still applies. It's just more enhanced when we connect to these days of power.
Right. And so
one of the tools of Kabbalah.
That's an energy that we're going to be manifesting
Yes.
all week. So we hope you enjoy it. We hope you feel it. And we'll see you next time on the Weekly Energy Boost.